Hello and welcome back to Dystopia Now. I am Kate Willett,
I'm Emil Torres.
and this is our last episode, our last main feed episode of the year. We might put a couple more things on Patreon, but we just wanted to say that it's been an amazing year with you. I think we started this podcast in February, is that right?
That sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been going almost a year at this point, it's been a wild ride. There have been a lot of tech bros doing weird stuff in that time, I'll tell you that. Yeah,
There's been no shortage of things to talk about.
it
Yeah.
it truly has been a wild year. What is your like standout, like this is the weirdest thing that has happened this year in the universe of tech bros?
I don't even know where to begin. I think I think coming across the pro-extinctionist stuff, like the work of Daniel Fagella, who proposes this worthy successor idea that we should build AGI that could completely replace humanity and be our worthy successor to carry on the torch of life into the cosmos and so on. That was pretty weird. I mean, I had seen these ideas floating around, but the fact that there are individuals now who are just specifically focused on promoting this particular idea and hosting conferences promoting the worthy successor idea that are being attended by people from DeepMind, OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, and so on. That's something that has really stuck with me. And perhaps I'm thinking about it as well because I'm about to start writing my next book, which is tentatively titled Eugenics on Steroids. And there will be a whole chapter at least focused on this issue, Silicon Valley pro-extinctionism. So
You could almost call it eugenics on ketamine because that's what these guys were doing. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea.
Wait, okay, so if you do end up naming your book, that can I have like a little mention at the end with your acknowledgments?
Of course, you would have a mention at the beginning. Yeah,
Aw,
no,
yeah,
that's
but no,
brilliant. I love it.
eugenics on ketamine is a pretty fun title. So,
Yeah,
listeners, you may have heard the birth of this crazy title for Emil's book, maybe.
I genuinely love that.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's really
amazing.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think people are going to get the reference to like the normal phrase on steroids
Yeah.
and understand what it is.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of wild moments for me
Mhm.
this year, but I think that the one that was like just an absolute fucking jaw dropper was when Mark Andreessen hired Daniel Penny to work for Andreessen Horowitz. Do you remember that?
I do, but I don't recall the details off the top of my head.
Yeah, so Daniel Penny was acquitted for choking a homeless person to
Oh,
death
right.
on the
Yes.
train in New
Yeah.
York. And, I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting. Jordan Neely was, in my opinion, murdered by
Yeah.
Daniel Penny. The court did not conclude that as well, but he was being charged by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office with manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, and he was acquitted. And I think a normal response to that is to be really, really upset about this miscarriage of justice and that there's people in the situation where they don't have homes in the first place. But Mark Andreessen, techno-optimist, manifesto, billionaire, the American dynamism guy, mega yimby, he decided that he was going to give Daniel Penny a job. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, that was just like, there's been so many other moments too. I think
Yeah.
one thing I've noticed this year is like, we've talked about freedom cities on this show,
Yeah.
like the kind of these venture capital firms trying to build their sort of like libertarian tech pro utopias, but in the United States, not
Yeah.
just, Honduras or the moon. I have seen some like more like liberal people, liberal pundits and whatnot, start to express support for that idea. And I'm like, I knew it was going to happen, but
Yeah.
it's still shocking when I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. I would say that if there is one specific event that I feel like is most iconic of where our country is right now. For me, it was Elon Musk giving the Nazi salute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
crazy to think that that was this year.
it was this year, right? Am I
Yeah,
misremembering?
it feels like so long ago.
Yeah,
And we've really, I mean, that's an interesting moment to think back on because I think at that time it really felt like, oh fuck, like, these guys have conquered it. Like they have achieved power, they bought the presidency, and then, Elon comes into the Oval Office and he's slashing and burn with Doge and I mean, it really they did a lot of terrible things, but I think at this moment we're in a completely different place culturally.
yeah,
These men and their companies are widely hated.
yeah,
We're starting to see a lot of people trying to block data centers in their area
yeah,
and a lot of sort of populist sentiment, like people, really kind of all across the political spectrum being like, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't have so many billionaires. And, obviously I like the left wing version of that and not the right wing version of that,
yeah.
but it's we are in a very, very different place. I don't feel like they have the same level of cultural dominance that it seemed like they were going to in early 2025.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've mentioned to people before, I probably said it on this podcast in previous episodes, that the Trump administration, Trump 2.0, has been both worse than I expected and not as bad, right?
Yeah.
In different respects. So, I feared right after he was elected that maybe there wouldn't be another election. And I shouldn't speak too soon because we're still 3 years out from the next presidential election. But it seems like midterms, there is a good chance, or with respect to midterms, there's a good chance that Democrats could take back some power. So
Yeah.
consistent with what you're saying, like the kind of omnipotent power that they seem to have initially, given all of this momentum, and the which I think was represented by the boldness, the audacity of Musk going out there and giving the Nazi salute not once but twice. Um,
Yeah.
that momentum seems to have waned quite a bit, which gives me, therefore, a little bit of hope. Right? I mean, Zoran was elected. you know,
Yeah, I mean Zoran. Okay, like I petitioned for Zoran. I canvassed for Zoran. I was very excited about Zoran. I'm still excited about Zoran, but I think for on another day we could talk about how these guys have kind of even sort of gotten I don't know, like I'm surprised at the level to which like Zoran has been sort of open to talking to everybody, like including some of their like lobbying organizations and stuff, and I'm like, we're gonna have to stay on it to keep Zoran honest. Not because he's a bad person. Zoran seems like a great person, but because there are such enormous pressures within the like liberal bourgeois government to
mhm.
just do I mean to kind of go with the flow, and he has to make these alliances and stuff. So I'm interested to see what happens. I'm looking forward to a 2026 of taxing the rich, hopefully in New York City,
Yeah,
and but like just building power, not just like putting someone in office, but actually having like the street movements and the unions, labor unions and tenant unions to actually like make the stuff that Zoran said he was going to do happen. It's
yeah,
not, unfortunately, it's not going to be so simple as just like, electing someone. We're really going to have to give the establishment quite a fight here. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it is good to remember that it requires a constant effort, right? There are various individuals, like public individuals like John Stewart has mentioned this a bunch as well. I mean, it requires constant work to keep
Constant work.
constant work. Yes, and so that's true. Obviously, when one is in on the losing side, but it's even true when one is winning. I mean, after all, as we've talked about before, like there seemed to be like progress seemed to be inexorable. Like before Trump was elected, there were, wokeness was making its becoming more prominent, influential, and trans people were being more accepted by society. Gay marriage was legalized, and so it just seemed like this sort of progressive trajectory was inexorable, like I said, um, and then the pendulum swung radically, very far to the other direction. So, yeah, I mean, those are sagacious words, very, very wise
Yeah.
words. We just need like constant effort to keep pushing things in the right direction.
Speaking of making an effort, you know who made an effort to keep our show alive this year?
No, I have no idea. Who are you
It's
talking
our
about?
Patreon supporters. So, really, our Patreon supporters have been like the main reason that we have been able to grow this show to do more episodes. Yeah, just being able to have some help with editing is so helpful, and we're hoping to be able to grow more in 2026, and to be able to grow our video presence online for those who like to watch our show on YouTube, to have more incredible guests, and we just have a lot of plans, and it's been really awesome to have the ability to pay some people to help us now and then, because doing the show is really just so much work. Like, Emil and I both have other jobs, and we're doing this for the love of the game, and so I think that we're just so deeply appreciative of the people who helped us this year. And
That
if
really
you're
can't be
thinking about
overstated.
it can't be overstated. If you're
Yeah.
thinking about becoming a Patreon supporter, know that like we very, very, very much appreciate your help. Like, when we're looking at like, okay, like what can we do with the show, this year? Like, can we, put out, like, how many episodes can we put out? Like, what level of research do we have time for on a specific issue? Like, the fact that like it's not all coming out of like our own pockets is a very big factor, and we hope that as time goes on, that we're able to just like focus more and more on just the research side of it, and also promoting, so that we can have more people find out about our show and this information. So I just really want to thank you so much. Yeah, we wanted to shout out our newest supporters who have joined us pretty recently.
That includes Tim, Ryan, Emily, Teal, Maurice, Carmen, and Jordan. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
And also Rachel, Zamzam, Gurnet, Jaco, Joe, Strategian, Cinda, and Valerie Ann. Yeah, thank you so much for joining this month. We super, super, super duper appreciate you. And to show our appreciation, we did do a very fun episode we just put out on Patreon about Ayla's SlutCon. So if you've ever wondered about the intersection of pickup artistry and Tescrial rationalist, this is going to be the episode for you. I would say don't eat before you listen to this episode.
In the best way, it is a really, really weird episode.
It's one of the funnest episodes we've ever done, though. It's a little salacious. That's why we couldn't put it on the main feed, because holy moly, these guys are really, really weird. Okay, so our main topic for the episode today is we are going through predictions that techno-optimists have made for 2025 and other recent years, and we're looking at which ones came true and which ones did not come true.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy it, because there were a few predictions that were actually kind of on target, but a lot of them, I mean, unsurprisingly, a lot of them just really, really missed the mark, sometimes in quite comical ways.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun episode. So this is it for 2025, and we will see you in the new year, probably the second week of January, after we take a little break ourselves and hopefully have a chance to not think about these dudes for a second. Thank you again so much for listening to this show, for contributing to the show, for last year at this time, there was no show. We didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not a thing. It was merely an idea that we were trying to start.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you so much. Hello, and welcome back to Dystopia Now. I am Kate Willett.
I'm Emil Torres.
This episode, we wanted to do a quick look at the predictions that techno-optimistic folks, mostly billionaires, have had for like where we would be at with technology in 2025 and in previous years, and look at the difference from where we are at now.
And some of these predictions come from just last year, others from years ago. Like 2020, there was a World Economic Forum article that made a bunch of predictions about things that would happen by the end of 2025. There was another Pew study that quoted a bunch of people as well as surveyed individuals about their thoughts of what would happen by 2025, or really the end of 2025. And that was published back in 2014. So it's a wide range of different predictions. Some are fresh. Others have been sitting on the internet for quite a while.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, we're going to get into predictions versus reality for this year and past. So I think what we're going to do is Emil is going to tell me the prediction, and then I am going to try to guess what year the prediction is from.
Prediction is from or for?
The prediction is for. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
So there are a whole bunch that I compiled, thanks in part to our producer, Michelle, shared a really interesting Pew study. This is the one that was published back in 2014. And so, yeah, let's go through this. Some of them focus on AI and technology. Others concern space colonization. There are a number of predictions, really hilarious and simultaneously heartbreaking predictions about where we would be with respect to the climate crisis right now. So we'll go over some of those. So let's begin with a prediction from Dario Amodei. He's the CEO of Anthropic, as many of you no doubt know. Anthropic's one of the major AI companies, along with OpenAI, DeepMind, xAI, and so on. And so he said, not that long ago, that large language models, those are the systems that power current AI systems, would be, quote, writing 90% of code by this year, or you might even be more specific and mention a month. What do you think?
Okay, I'm
90% of code.
90% of code.
And here's a little bit of a context. Back in April of this year, the CEO of Microsoft said that AI was at the moment writing 30% of code.
I'm going to guess.
Does that help at all?
This is a prediction for, I'm just going to throw it out there, June 2025.
It's a really close. September 2025.
Okay, wow, you know what? I did pretty good, I would say, yeah.
Not too bad at all. I'm impressed with that. So yeah, Amodei was just completely off. Now he is predicting that what he calls powerful AI, which is basically his term for AGI, artificial general intelligence, some system that can perform as well as humans in every cognitive domain of interest. So he says that we will get powerful AI as soon as, what year do you think he has in mind?
2027.
Good guess. Next year.
Next year.
As soon as next year, he claims. Okay. Yeah. So maybe you were thinking, or maybe you were influenced by that study that got a ton of attention. J.D. Vance read it, called AI 2027.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah. It seems like, I was like, a lot of these D-bags seem to have agreed that 2027 is our banner year for being taken over by robots, so.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, one of the main authors of that study, named Daniel Cucatalo, who I used to know back in North Carolina. He was a grad student. We were both into rationalism and transhumanism, etc. So we hung out a bunch. He even read an early draft of one of my books, which was on existential risk. So anyways, I knew him back in the day, and he was one of the lead authors of AI 2027. He has since updated his prediction to 2030. So AI 2027 is a misnomer at this point.
Yeah.
So my prediction about his predictions is that he'll change it probably again. I don't think this is the last time he's modified the the prophesy date for when AGI will
I
finally
like the
arrive.
term prophesy. It's so Shakespearean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I find this relatable. I also set tasks for myself that I just keep moving back the date by which it'll be accomplished. So I
Yeah.
get it, to be honest, but all right.
I mean, when you publish an article or a report, a study, if you could call it that, it's basically a work of science fiction that gets that much attention. You know, it's worth, like, I don't know, triple checking your estimates
Yeah.
to make sure, or maybe being conservative and not, as opposed to kind of alarmist, right? I know there were some people on social media who responded to Kokotalo pushing back his date. Uh, Responded with, like, not just disappointment, but quite a bit of frustration.
Well, I mean,
Like, what the
these
f?
predictions are not independent of it being companies that are trying to get money, right? Like, if they're predicting that, okay, we're going to have this like incredible world-changing product next year. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
that gets people to buy to invest in the company. So, I think
yeah,
it's always going to be, I think all the predictions are always going to be like, this is happening pretty soon,
yeah,
but
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there are studies that have shown that like major breakthroughs are oftentimes predicted like 20, 30 years in the
yeah,
future. Like always, though.
yeah.
As time proceeds, as time moves forward, the predictions remain like 20, 30
It
years
reminds me
out
of
there.
that Flight of the
Um,
Conchords song. Have you heard that one? The humans are dead.
The distant future, the distant future.
It is the distant future, the year 2000.
We are robots.
The world is very different ever since the robotic uprising of the mid-90s. There is no more unhappiness.
Affirmative.
We no longer say yes, instead we say affirmative.
Yes, affirmative.
It's like,
Absolutely,
yeah,
yes.
the distant
Yeah.
future, the year 2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like from 2008 or something. It was awesome. Yeah. Okay.
I very much know that song because I love Flight of the
Yeah, they're
Conchords.
really funny. What's the next
Yeah.
prediction?
Or Flute of the Commodore, as somebody once said in one of their episodes.
That's so funny.
So here's one. I'm not even sure there's really a question here. Maybe I could formulate it as a question. Sam Altman,
Yeah.
CEO of OpenAI, was asked last year what he's most excited about. What in 2025? What do you think he said?
Drinking human blood.
So he gave two answers. One was having a kid,
Aw.
which, yeah, that's kind of sweet. There are moments where he comes across. I think he is pretty convincing in his effort to look human and seem human, normal.
I'm not convinced at all. I think it seems really like BS. Like he said, I think there was this interview with him recently where he said that he wouldn't be able to raise his baby without AI, and he doesn't know how people
Yeah,
did it.
I saw
and I'm
that.
like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like people have figured it out. There literally would be no human species if people didn't figure this out. And also, Google, I think, was roughly serving the same function that AI is with regard to child rearing. Like, oh, by the way, how do I don't know, what's a good baby scale, right? Or, like what's the right
Yeah.
temperature for formula? Like Google has been around for quite some time. And before that, books,
What?
Yeah, but people figured it out.
I mean, the thing about Google is that Google is more accurate and reliable, right? Because the search results would take you to like Cleveland Clinic or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So it's worrisome that he's out there promoting the idea that parents should rely on ChatGPT
Yeah.
to get advice.
Yeah, actually, that is
So
concerning.
yeah. So that was one of his responses. The other response to the question, "What are you most excited about with respect to 2025?" The other answer was AGI. Right.
Oh, God.
So yeah, and of course, GPT-5 was hailed by him and others as having PhD level knowledge in like a multiplicity of domains. Reid Hoffman described it as, quote, universal basic superintelligence. And this is a system, just to remind folks, that if you give it a picture of a human hand with 6 fingers and ask it how many fingers does it have, it'll say 5.
Wow.
Right? It's just makes the most elementary errors. So it's nowhere close to having PhD level knowledge. It's not universal basic superintelligence. But anyways, so last year, Altman, with a bit of a chuckle, said, oh yeah, one of the things I'm really looking forward to in 2025 is the arrival of AGI.
He names his baby AGI, so he's not technically lying. Yeah.
Right? That's a great thought.
Yeah.
Very clever. All right, so here is another question. Moving from AI evangelists to AI skeptics, Gary Marcus posted on X last year that he had penned an article for Wired in which he argued that the AI bubble will burst in this year. When do you think he predicted?
So we're doing AI skeptics versus AI doomers, right? Or are these doomers? Gary Marcus is not a doomer, right? Or is he? I don't know.
He's not a doomer. He's a skeptic, but he's not an AI optimist.
Yeah.
The way Altman and the others are.
Well, okay, so the reason I'm asking is because I feel like the AI doomers are like, AI is going to destroy everything. It's going to kill us all, but it's going to be really soon. Whereas like an AI skeptic is going to be making a longer prediction, I think. So, okay, what's the statement again?
The AI bubble will pop in which year? So he made this claim last year.
Probably this year, 2025, I would guess, yeah.
Yes. Nicely done.
Okay.
I mean, maybe these answers are a little too easy.
Yeah, I mean, I might have seen him make this prediction, so I think I might have seen the tweet in which he did this. Yeah.
But there is a twist here because he followed up his submission of this article to Wired with a tweet. And in the tweet, he said, I just wrote a great piece for Wired predicting that the AI bubble will collapse in 2025. And now I wish I hadn't. Clearly, I got the year wrong. It's going to be days or weeks from now, not months. That was posted in August of 2024. So,
I mean, I think the AI bubble is going to pop. Like, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, I guess this should teach me not to get into the prediction situation. But this is, I don't know, like, it does seem like it will pop and that it can't go on at this rate forever. You know, at some point, investors are going to expect a return. It seems like that could be within the next few years, but maybe longer. I don't know. It feels like a very 2005 housing market situation to me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that if the race to build AGI is couched as or understood as a geopolitical race toward the construction of the most powerful technology. You know, Vladimir Putin said many years ago, he wasn't really talking about AGI, but nonetheless, the statement was, whoever builds AI first rules the world, right? And so as long as there is this, even if that idea is completely wrong and misguided, etc., if there are individuals in power who believe that it's true, that may be enough to keep the AI bubble from bursting.
Yeah.
Right? There may still be huge investments because the outcome of the AI race really might determine, they would say, who is going to control the world. You know, who's going to win like the ultimate geopolitical competition for supremacy.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm skeptical of that claim in terms of like, you know, I think it is fairly likely that China will overtake the US in terms of like, technological innovation. I mean, they already have done so in many, many sectors, you know, and AI is an important one, I guess, but I don't think if China has better, more advanced AI, that necessarily means that, you know, the power of the US military, for example, is null and void. It's complicated. I mean, like, I also think that if China does get there as a more advanced AI, like first or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that the bubble is going to pop, because then all of these, tech barons and as well as the U.S. government are going to frame it in terms of like, we have to catch up to China, right? So that's going to continue. But as far as like, just like these AI startups and stuff like that, like I feel like we could see some kind of like .com bubble burst on those, like AI for.
Yeah.
I mean, we're basically doing like, the Uber for cookies thing, like that's happening with AI right now. If you look at like tech job ads, it's all like, okay, here's AI customer service, like here's AI, writing, like for book public. I mean, it's everything. It's all just AI everything. And at some point,
Yeah.
I feel like there might not be as much money for that.
I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
So my own prediction, it would be a soft prediction. I'm not super confident. If I had to bet money, I'd bet a little bit of money on the AI bubble bursting next year. I think that's going to happen because there are all of these grandiose promises being made by leading figures within the field of AI, and I think it's increasingly clear that large language models by themselves are not going to get us to AGI. Ilya Sutskever, who was one of the co-founders of OpenAI, has said this. In a recent podcast, he said the age of scaling, that is making these systems bigger and bigger, increasing the parameters, the compute, and the data, the training data, making those things bigger, that age is over. And we're back to the age of research.
Yeah.
Those are the terms he used. Richard Sutton, who's this kind of like wild libertarian pro-extinctionist guy, who I interviewed for my newsletter, as it happens, he won the Turing Award a couple years ago because he's called like the father of machine learning. He also says that large language models are fundamentally limited.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that the promises will be recognized increasingly as unfulfillable, right, by these systems. And consequently, companies will realize, oh, we've invested so much in AI, that was a mistake. I mean, there was this report from MIT that found that 95% of AI pilots have or are failing.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There was another study out recently that found that there are increases in productivity within companies in certain segments of the larger workflow, right? Ultimately, what happens is that in those segments where AI is being used, the AI systems generate what they called work slop.
Work slop.
And I believe they coined that term. Yeah, so this work slop then gets passed down the line and causes more work for other people, right? So there's actually no net productivity gain as a result. So it's just, it's another study that confirms what the MIT study was concluding, that these pilot systems are pilot attempts are just failing. And so, yeah, I think there's a good chance that in 2026 people realize, oh yeah, AI is not what it's cracked up to be. People like Altman have way overpromised with respect to its capabilities, and consequently, there might very well be a .com like bubble, but it might be even bigger because we're talking about like trillions of dollars, right? And AI right now is propping up the U.S. economy, so it could be a really dire situation. There's a sense in which, for reasons relating to Schadenfreude, I want the AI bubble to pop. There's another sense in which I absolutely don't. I hope it does not pop because it's going to hurt a lot of people.
Yeah. Do you remember what percentage of the U.S. economy is AI at this point?
I don't, but it's pretty big. I mean, relatively speaking.
Okay, I'm just looking at this article from the New York Times, and this was November 2022. And so by one measure, this is from the article, by one measure, investments in computer equipment and software accounted for more than 90% of growth in gross domestic product for the first half of the year. And while economists caution against taking those numbers at face value, if it weren't for AI, some of those dollars would have flowed elsewhere. They say there is no doubt that AI investments help explain the economy's surprising resilience this year.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's larger than I would have guessed.
Yeah. From the same article. But reliance on AI as a source of growth poses a question for the economy. What happens if the gold rush stops? That threat is most obvious in the stock market, which has set record after record in recent months, largely on the strength of a handful of AI-focused companies. 7 companies, including Amazon, Microsoft, and Alphabet, the parent company of Google, now make up well over a third of the value of the S&P 500 index. Just one of the so-called Magnificent Seven, NVIDIA, which makes the chips that power many of the most advanced large language models, recently, though briefly, topped $5 trillion in market value. $5 trillion. So fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And there's so much circular investment
Yes.
going on as well.
100%,
Right?
right? Yeah.
like NVIDIA giving OpenAI a ton of money. OpenAI then giving that money to Oracle, right? Which is going to like host the server farms. And then Oracle giving that money back to NVIDIA to buy the chips for those server farms, right? So it's just it's a bad situation. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if everything comes crashing down in 2026. But in a sense, I hope that doesn't happen because it's going to hurt many of us.
Yes. But it would be funny too.
All right.
Okay, next one.
It would
We'll do
also
our
be
next
funny,
prediction.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so here, this is a different round of the game. So in this round, I will read you a prediction that was made for 2025 a year ago, and I'll ask you to evaluate.
Okay.
If you think how accurate you think it was.
Okay.
Does that sound
Sure.
good? Awesome. Okay, so in Forbes, there was this guy named Mark Minovich. I've never heard of him before. I looked at his personal website, describes him as a globally recognized AI strategist, investor, and UN advisor, advancing AI innovation and AI-first digital transformation. So he wrote this. He wrote this article with a whole bunch of different predictions. I've selected a few that I find interesting / hilarious. So here's the first one. He writes, quote, the U.S. equities index is expected, so S&P 500, et cetera, is expected to reach at least 6,500 by the close of 2025, representing a 9% increase in price from its present value and a 10% total return when factoring in dividends. A good deal of these gains will be courtesy of the AI firms. I assume you don't like check the S&P 500 every day.
No. No.
So, but you also know that the economy kind of tanked earlier this year when Trump initially implemented all of
The
those
tariffs,
really
yeah.
extreme, those tariffs. So do you think he was right in saying that by the end of 2025, U.S. equities index is expected to reach at least 6,500?
I don't think he's right, no.
All right, so I checked the S&P 500 earlier today, and it's around 6,887.
Oh, wow, okay.
And indeed, the AI companies are largely responsible for the fact that we aren't in an economic recession right now. So that's pretty good. I'm not an economist, but as far as I could tell, like, nicely done.
Yeah, go mini Mark. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here's prediction number 2. In households, inexpensive robotic appliances will prevail over conventional devices, providing greater protection, linking, and ease of use. In 2025, there will be confusion over what constitutes and does not constitute human effort, leading to profound debate over the topic of work, self, and meaning. How would you assess that?
I would say it's not really true. Most people have just a regular ass fridge and a regular ass washing machine and a regular ass coffee maker. I do have one kind of appliance like that in my house, the litter robot for my cats, the automatic litter box. But I haven't even hooked it up to the Wi-Fi to monitor if they are going to the bathroom enough or not. I don't know. I bet most people are still using fairly conventional appliances.
I would totally agree with that. But I think the second sentence, that there will be confusion over what constitutes and does not constitute human effort, could be interpreted as being somewhat accurate, right? Depends on what you mean by human effort. There was a study published just recently that found that more than 50% of articles online right now are AI written, right? And if I remember correctly, the study didn't include articles that are behind a paywall. right? So there are a ton of websites, news outlets that have their articles behind a paywall. New York Times, The Atlantic, et cetera. So the results are kind of skewed, but nonetheless, they indicate like a really significant increase in the number of works that are authored by non-human entities, AI, large language models. So in that sense, like the confusion over what constitutes human effort, you know, th- I feel like there's some truth to that. Again, depending on how you interpret it, and also it's worth noting, as I think we did on a previous episode, that Altman himself tweeted not that long ago that he thinks basically he thinks the dead internet theory might be coming true as a result of large language models. Which, for someone, a critic of AI like myself, it's just a huge facepalm.
Yeah, hot dog meme situation. Hot dog suit man. Yes. We are all looking for the guy who did this.
Yeah. And for folks who might not be familiar, the dead internet theory is just the idea that a majority or perhaps a large majority of interactions you have online are with bots. Right. And so this was considered to be a conspiracy theory for many years. But now, with the rise of large language models, it does seem like there's kind of some truth. It seems to be coming true. And so I feel like this also speaks to that second claim about confusion over what constitutes does not constitute human effort. Again, sort of loosely understanding human effort. I think this is somewhat accurate.
Okay, cool.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Or is it just okay, cool?
No, I agree.
Yeah. So then he makes a number of other claims that are sort of unambiguously wrongheaded. So these are pretty obvious, but they're
What if I agree with these ones? Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe you will. Let's see. But these are worth mentioning because they sort of underline the fact that, so I know that this is, what I'm about to say is obvious, but predicting the future is really, really difficult. Now, that's yes, everybody's going to agree with that. The implication is that who knows really what our lives are going to be like at the end of next year.
Yeah.
12 months from now. Who knows what the world is going to be like in 5 years. Right, that's a really long time, given the rapidity of change within our society.
I agree. I'm a little, I don't know, especially the economic predictions. I feel like a crash has been predicted for a long time, and it hasn't really come.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
yeah,
but it probably still is. I just don't know.
Yeah. All right. So here's the third prediction.
Okay.
He writes, quote, asteroid mining will be a concept that turns into reality as firms such as Astroforge, which I've not heard of before, aim to launch a compact refinery into space designed to extract minerals from asteroids and transport only the precious metals back to Earth. So
space
not
mining.
even close.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. I mean, to me, it's just, I don't doubt it could be done, but like, how could it be? I don't get how you'd make your money back on that, to be honest,
Yeah, but also, like, we're just nowhere close to that, right? That technology does not exist. And it doesn't, as far as I could tell, it doesn't seem like we're that close to actually being able to mine asteroids.
No.
So here's another prediction. He writes, quote, in 2025, humanity will continue experiments in deep space exploration and take a baby step toward the commercialization of outer space by forming permanent habitats on the moon through private business ventures and government initiatives. 2025 will mark the key year when humanity will experience the change of its goals and dream to start a new life on a new planet and move from being an earthbound species to a multiplanetary species. So again, like a huge swing and a miss.
I mean, was this guy fucking high when he said this? Because some of his other predictions were fairly reasonable, but this is this is nuts. There's just no way.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing. They're nuts from our perspective at the end of 2025.
Yes.
But there was so much hype surrounding, like, colonizing space, getting to Mars, getting humans to the moon again. that I do think even in 2024, at the end of 2024, when he wrote this, these predictions would have been a little bit outlandish.
Mhm.
But you're totally right that at least in retrospect, they're just cockamamie. They're absurd.
100%. Okay.
And here's one last prediction within this same kind of category. Anti-aging therapies that operate at the level of cells and genes will advance, and these technologies will become everyday practices.
I mean, if he
Whoops.
means vitamins,
Yeah.
I think, like, I mean, otherwise, no.
I don't know what he had in mind. If he was thinking maybe we'd have like nanobots at this point that we could inject into our bloodstream to go repair cells. Yeah, I don't know, but again, this is another, this claim that we're on the verge of a biomedical breakthrough that will enable the radical extension of individual lives. This has been around for quite a while, right? Aubrey de Grey, who's a kind of a transhumanist, who's kind of in that whole TESCRIL circle. He's claimed numerous times that the first person to live basically forever has already been born, right? And as far as I could tell, the rate of advancements within anti-aging science, they aren't glacial, but they're not particularly fast. And so I'm very skeptical that the first person who will live forever has already been born. And I'm skeptical that next year we'll see. I'm skeptical that this guy's prediction about this year will come true next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of crazy because I just have this thought that, like, people have always been obsessed with living forever in some way. But I think
Yeah.
in previous generations, that has meant trying to become a brilliant artist or,
Yeah.
doing something that's so beneficial for humanity, like inventing a vaccine that saves like millions and millions of lives, or
Yeah.
becoming the president or something. Like, people have always wanted to
Yeah.
live on, but I think this moment, people are quite literalist about it, and I think it
Yeah.
negatively impacts sort of all of the other areas where people have tried to quote unquote live forever, like the arts, like truly beneficial scientific advances that are saving lives. Like,
Yeah.
no doubt, if this same amount of energy had been applied to curing various forms of cancer, this level of
Yeah.
financial investment, we would be further along. I don't doubt it,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There was a comedian who once said, "I don't want to live on through my work. I want to live on in my apartment." Right.
Yeah.
That artist was Woody Allen, who's on my mind today because House Democrats just released a bunch of pictures from the Epstein estate, and Woody Allen's in a bunch of
Oh
them.
my God. Not surprised. Right.
I know. It's kind of amazing how like Epstein and Woody Allen seem to have a pretty close relationship. Obviously, we mentioned in a previous episode that Chomsky went to dinner with Jeffrey Epstein and Woody Allen, which is just so disappointing.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Okay, so maybe we should move on to some predictions that were published by the World Economic Forum in 2020 for 2025, right? And so I mentioned at the very beginning of the episode that some predictions we'll discuss are simultaneously kind of funny and heartbreaking. So I think that describes some of the predictions that the World Economic Forum made. So, for example, they said in this 2020 article, quote, "In 2025, carbon footprints will be viewed as socially unacceptable, much like drink driving is today. Public attention will drive government policy and behavioral changes, with carbon footprints becoming a subject of worldwide scrutiny. We'll see a diversity of new technologies aimed at both reducing and removing the world's emissions, unleashing a wave of innovation to compare with the industrial and digital revolutions of the past."
I'm going to say no, that didn't come true.
What a nice thought.
I mean, in a way, it's, okay, that would have been great, but obviously that is not what has happened. And in a way, I would say that the past couple years have seen liberals, like as in elected liberals, but even some liberal voters sort of move past this idea of like literally Greta Thunberg style climate activism more towards the kind of eco-modernist frame that we
Yeah.
have discussed on our show, where it's like, oh, don't worry, we're going to have nuclear everywhere, and we can emit a bunch of fossil fuels to get there now, or like between I'm a fan of renewables, but basically that we will be able to innovate ourselves out of this with minimal cost. But all this stuff comes with great cost. Obviously, I am for not having fossil fuels, for completely getting off fossil fuels, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do that without some level of, I'm going to say the word, degrowth. I think that like people largely accepted that there would have to be some kind of lifestyle changes, and I think that that's fallen very much out of fashion. And you see these liberal pundits all of a sudden start peddling the idea of a future where lives have not really changed in any way, but I don't think that the future includes private jets, whether that's because we've made some laws or because we are all not alive anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if anything, I think that climate activism has been sort of demonized. The work that Joe Biden did on incorporating aspects of the Green New Deal, Biden was so unpopular that I think that the attitude is like, well, tried that, and I think we're in a worse place, not just because of AI, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So everything you said just now aligns with my impression about the shifting currents of climate activism. Maybe that was an overly poetic way of putting it, but it just seems like a lot of people, to borrow the phrase you just used, have kind of moved on. It's kind of it's sort of amazing to witness, right? Greta Thunberg is focused on the Gaza genocide, right? And I don't think. I think there's good reason.
Yeah, she's busy.
We're
We're not faulting her for that at all. Actually, I think she's so amazing and brave, and she has not tried to go the liberal activist route of just, being basically a celebrity. She has actually, she's been beaten in an Israeli prison, and I just really respect her, so we're not trying to talk shit on her at all.
Definitely not. I have a huge amount of admiration for her, and I'm not suggesting she's slacking off.
Yeah, 100%,
right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see her pivot kind of away from climate change and towards these other, very, very, very important issues. But in addition, like Extinction Rebellion, as far as I know, isn't holding massive protests. I went to one of these protests back in 2019, and it was in London, and it was huge. There were tons of people there. So there aren't these Extinction Rebellion protests anymore, at least not ones that are really big. Just Stop Oil has basically vanished from the front page of the news. And I just see almost nobody on social media talking about climate change anymore. That's really astonishing to me. And this is despite the fact that, biodiversity loss continues to get much worse, right? Since 1970, the global population of wild vertebrates has declined by 69%. And that continues apace, right? We're in the early stages of the sixth major mass extinction event. We've just recently crossed the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold, right? That was identified by the Paris Climate Accord. And there are, last year was the hottest year on record. 2025 is set to be the second or third hottest year ever on record. So things are getting worse. And it seems like fewer people are, if I had to speculate about why, I'd say on the one hand, like AI has captured a lot of attention. People have a kind of a finite reservoir for apocalyptic anxiety, right? And AI has just been all over the news. So I think that's used up a lot of those, people's the resources, the mental psychological resources they have for worrying about global scale catastrophes, and also probably Trump getting elected.
I think Trump getting elected was a very big.
Yeah.
I sort of see two sort of timelines here where, I think Biden I think Biden was one of our better presidents on climate, and
Careful.
well,
Yeah.
on climate stuff,
No.
like he actually, in the sense that I'm trying to think of, it's a very low bar, but
Yeah.
he was better than most. He incorporated some aspects of AOC's Green New Deal into the Inflation Reduction Act, and I mean, I think that during his term, we started to see sort of liberal rhetoric move more towards the idea of a technological solution and away from reducing emissions. But then when Trump got elected, there was just defeatism where it was just like, okay, we're not going to be able to do anything about this. And in the background have been these horrible, horrible things like the genocide in Gaza, just in general, like in the US, just homelessness skyrocketing. And I think that a lot of people's attention who do normally, pay attention to climate, people who are on the left, there's just been, such massive, devastating emergencies that people have, I think, oriented away from the kind of like sort of longer term issues that I don't know, but something really has changed since 2023, I think.
Yeah. I completely agree. I was consumed by a sense of defeatism after Trump was elected. And I have to say, there was a weird kind of unburdening that happened as a result. I mean, I even tweeted this. Like, I'm not, the question for me used to be, can we ensure that our civilization, modern global civilization, which I'm not saying is a good thing, but if it collapses, a lot of people are going to die. It's going to be very, very bad. Or can we ensure that it survives into the future? That was the question I was focused on. After Trump was elected, I thought, well, I feel like the answer has been given now. And so I almost feel like a weight has been lifted. And I even tweeted about like maybe pivoting towards a more palliative care approach. Like what does it mean to live well when you feel fairly confident that civilization is going to collapse as a result of, the climate crisis? What does it mean to like build community and make life meaningful? And so, I don't know. I felt a weight lifted, like I said, but so maybe there, this could very well be like a good explanation for why climate activism has kind of faded away.
Well, I don't see it so much as like, I mean, I think at the federal level, it's just not possible to really do anything when Trump and Republicans are in charge. So I think, there has been a lot on the state level, like in New York, the Build Public Renewables Act. I think various states, New York is the one that I know the most about, are shifting away from fossil fuels, in various industries. I think that, not industries, but in various ways. Like, I know that the Bay Area is some, I think Alameda Transit is working on, getting, 100% electric bus fleet. I could be wrong. But, I think it's just kind of shifted towards like less visible things. But I mean, on the left, I think, just between Trump and the genocide in Gaza. But I don't think we should be defeatist. This is something that I have disagreed with you about in the past. Not saying that you're defeatist, but like, I think, I mean, first of all, we never know what's going to happen in the future. That's the subject of this episode, right? Like life often looks really different.
Good point.
Even, we just don't have all of the information needed to make accurate predictions. But, there's always levels of things. There's always, a kind of a scale of how bad things can get, and whether that looks like a just future where maybe there's less resources and we are deciding where those resources should go based on need versus based on wealth, or whether we just have a bunch of people who, don't have access to water anymore. Like, these are political decisions, and are going to be, are going to be impacted by a variety of things. But yeah, I get that, like, for people who are doomers, like, I completely get it. But I do think that, like, climate doomerism is it's almost like, it's almost just like the other side of the coin of, people who think that there will just be like 100% technological solution that will just do carbon capture and be fine. It's
Yeah.
like, until we have that until maybe we can solve climate change technologically, but until we do, we should probably keep focusing on, like, doing
Yeah.
what we need to do to reduce the emissions. Maybe they'll invent it someday and then I'll be excited, but I guess all these, like, tech bros are operating under the idea that we can just go ahead and have all these emissions without the technology that they say is going to save us,
Yeah, yeah. And also with respect to climate defeatism, doomerism, nihilism, whatever, I have mentioned this line, I'm sure, at some point in a previous discussion. I don't believe in hope, but I do believe in duty. And I'm not saying that I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have any hope
Yeah.
for the future. That's not true. I do have some. But also, for me, the sense of moral duty is sufficient.
Yeah.
So even if it's the case that I have zero hope, that I still feel absolutely motivated to go out to the streets, to write my articles, et cetera, to do everything possibly can to make things as okay as possible for, like, the relatives that I have who are young right now, or who are going to have to live with the consequences. And by the way, the reason that I interjected earlier when you were talking about Biden is you said Biden was one of our better presidents, and I didn't know if that was the end of the
On
sentence.
climate.
And that's
Yeah.
on climate.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said careful. But yes, I agree with you.
Okay, so we have a few more predictions left, and we are going to go through them pretty fast. Hit me with some predictions.
All right, here we go. So these are also from that same 2020 article published by the World Economic Forum. It says by 2025, quantum computing will have outgrown its infancy, and a first generation of commercial devices will be able to tackle meaningful real-world problems. That hasn't exactly happened. Quantum computing, it does have some limited uses, but it's not really, like, it's not been integrated into a lot of research projects, for example. There's a quantum computer here at Case Western, as it happens. I think it was a project that IBM and Cleveland Clinic. I got to visit it. I wrote a whole report on quantum computing. It's very interesting. But yes, it's still in its infancy. So that prediction from 5 years ago is wrong. This same report says improvements in AI will finally put access to wealth creation within reach of the masses. Artificial intelligence is improving at such a speed that the strategies employed by these financial advisors will be accessible via technology and therefore affordable to the masses. So consequently, tens of millions of people won't have to know modern portfolio theory to be able to have their money work for them. Not so much.
It's been replaced by gambling. You can gamble on anything now. Yeah.
Yeah. They say that AI and related tech is going to enable people to better build real emotional connections. In the next few years, we can expect to see this progress accelerate, the article says, with AI technology built to connect people at a human level and drive them closer to each other, even when physically apart. I'd say AI has replaced human-to-human contact more than it has enabled and facilitated it. Right? People have AI girlfriends.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like we're in roughly the same position that we've been in since social media became a really huge part of life, certainly since the pandemic. It feels like 2020, a lot of people, for various reasons, some which are totally understandable, like needing to, being immunocompromised, or, some people just kind of becoming more socially isolated for emotional reasons. I don't see a big change since that, sort of the end of the, recommended quarantine phase of the pandemic. But I don't think AI has really had a huge impact. I think it's had some impact. Like, we've talked about the AI boyfriends and AI girlfriends, and, but I still don't think it's a giant phenomenon. But I could be wrong, right? Because it's like something that people don't really talk about. Like, nobody I may know someone who has an AI romantic partner, but that's probably
Yeah.
not something that most people are discussing. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Here's a question for you. How many or what percentage of your friends do you know online? Maybe you didn't have to meet them online, but the friendship persists because you get on Zoom, etc.
I mean, people
So
that I've
speaking for
never met
myself, for
in real
example,
life, or
people who you have friendships with that if it weren't for technology, you probably wouldn't have those friendships, right? So you meet up on Zoom, you text and so technology is enabling this friendship to persist.
does phone count?
Sure.
Okay, so I mean a lot, probably 80%, like
Yeah.
I'm from a state across the country, and I still have many
Yeah.
good friends there, as well
Yeah.
as a bunch of other states. So yeah, I mean I would say like of the people that I consider close friends, maybe only 20% even live in New York, and the other
Yeah.
80% are from places that I've lived in the past, Los Angeles,
Yeah.
San Francisco, Chicago. But, I think in a previous time, I would have kept in touch with them on the phone. But
Mhm.
that's still technology.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting. I would say I have one in-person friendship. One. And
One.
I'm about to move.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, everybody else I'm friends with, I only chat with them over Zoom.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you have
So,
moved a lot. That makes sense.
I've moved a lot and also I'm a bit of like a homebody and a workaholic.
Yeah.
So, I don't always have time to like go out and have drinks with friends in the evening. But it's interesting because, when I was reading this article, I reflected on my social situation and was a bit alarmed maybe to think the thought that I just said out loud. Like, yeah, I really have one person, and I don't see that person too often, but there are tons of friends of mine who I've never met in person, and I've known them for years now.
We only have met in
You know,
person one time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on quickly. So there was this Pew poll from 2014. I'll just read some of the results. For example, it found that half of the experts that there was, let's see, it was about 1,800, almost 1,900 experts who were questioned, and said half of experts. 48% envision a future in which robots and digital agents have displaced significant numbers of both blue and white collar workers. That is by 2025, with many expressing concerns that this will lead to vast increases in income inequality, masses of people who are effectively unemployable, and breakdowns in social order. The other half of the experts who responded to the survey expect that technology will not displace more jobs than it creates by 2025. To be sure, this group anticipates that many jobs currently performed by humans will be substantially taken over by robots or digital agents by 2025, but they have faith that human ingenuity will create new jobs, industries, and ways to make a living, just as it's been doing since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. So that, I feel like AI is not taking many jobs.
I think that it's not, I mean, okay, yes, when I am, for example, I was working something out with my bank, or my pet insurance, like I am
Mhm.
talking to an AI agent for part of it, like at
Mhm.
least. I think that, at stores, like if I go to the, CVS, it's a self checkout. So yeah, I mean there are a lot of jobs that have been replaced, but I don't know if it's AI specific. Like I mean there's been many other ways of automating jobs even before AI.
Yeah. Well, I guess there were claims that maybe by the end of 2025, like a huge percentage of the workforce would be struggling, right? Writers would get fired. There were some like news outlets that did start to fire journalists,
Yeah.
and with the idea that they'd replace them with AI.
Right, but
Turns
I
out
mean,
AI is terrible.
the journalism has been under attack since before AI was a thing, from these like private
Yeah,
equity buy-ups. And just loss of advertising revenue. It's tough to say how much of a factor AI has been specifically, but journalism has certainly lost many, many jobs.
So that's a great point. And what I was also trying to get at was just that this idea that was quite popular, I don't know, end of 2023, sometime around then, that AI was soon going to replace all journalists. That has not come to fruition. And so I think, this prediction from 2014, I would rate it as like mostly not true. Like, yes, AI is replacing some jobs, but like it's not a huge percentage of the workforce. And also, I'm not trying to minimize the people who have lost their
Yeah, no,
jobs,
I think
animators, etc.
it's definitely quite a few people, and I think that
Yeah.
okay, I think one sector that this has really, really impacted has actually been tech. And I think if
Mhm.
you are like a junior software engineer, you're trying to get an entry level job right now, it's almost impossible. And that is somewhat because of AI. And I
Yes.
think, I mean, like, I think major companies, for example, Chase, Goldman Sachs, Salesforce, Walmart, like they have either hired, Amazon is another one, Audible is a division of that. There have been both layoffs and not hiring as many people because of AI. But I'm putting that in like air quotes because I think a lot of what this is actually is just human employees being expected to do more work than they were previously expected to do, and AI being used as an
Yeah.
excuse for that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you can be more productive now because you have, AI to help you out, right? But it's just one person working 60 hours a week instead of 40. It's not AI specifically,
Yeah.
even though that's the
Yeah.
justification for it.
Yeah. 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 I think those are really insightful comments. So we're nearing the end of this hopefully fun tour
Yes.
uh, through all these weird predictions. I'll read just a few more predictions. So one is quite funny. Another, I think, hits the bullseye. And then we'll go over just a few other predictions that weren't specifically about 2025, but are related to AI.
Okay.
Right. So in the Pew research study, they quote a number of specific individuals, such as this guy named Stowe Boyd. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Stowe, lead researcher at GigaOM Research. No idea what that is. But anyways, the article says that this individual, quote, predicted pizzas will not be delivered by teenagers hoping for a tip. Food will be raised by robot vehicles, even in small plot urban farms that will become the norm, since so many people will have lost their jobs to bots. Your x-rays will be reviewed by a battery of Watson-grade AIs, and humans will only be pulled in when the machines disagree. Robotic sex partners will become commonplace, again by 2025, although the source of scorn and division, the way that critics today bemoan selfies as an indicator of all that's wrong with the world. I think there might be a typo in that, but anyways, I just read it as is.
I mean,
So-
okay, so one thing, I mean, obviously this prediction is mostly wrong, but, I think that with food delivery, it's interesting that he mentions that first because, food delivery is an area that has been extremely transformed by technology, but it's these app companies being able to pay people sub minimum wage, right? So like pizza delivery guy used to have to get minimum wage and then plus cash tips from the people that he was delivering to, or pizza woman, pizza non-binary delivery driver, all kinds of things. But like technology companies have fucked with the law enough that they've found these loopholes to say like, oh, DoorDash is actually a platform for independent business owners, like we're not a food delivery company, so that people can make $3 an hour instead of minimum wage. So yeah, still humans doing those jobs, but the conditions are much worse because of technology. It's not AI though.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. So there was another quote from a librarian who named K.G. Snyder, who says by 2025, AI, robotics, and ubiquitous computing will have snuck into parts of our lives without us understanding to what extent it has happened, much as I just went on a camping trip with a smartphone, laptop, and tablet. So nicely done. Good job. That's pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's some closing predictions. So Geoffrey Hinton very famously said in 2016 that, quote, AI would be able to do all the things radiologists can do within 5 years. That is 2021. Not even close.
Nope.
The same year, 2016, SpaceX announced that it was, quote, planning to send Dragon, one of its rockets, to Mars as soon as 2018. So 2018 was, let's say, a few years ago, and there's no indication that they're about to get to Mars anytime soon.
No.
So yeah, Musk, sticking with Musk and his companies, he also said back in 2017 that, quote, by 2021, his brain-computer interface company, quoting an article here, Neuralink, would release a viable product for treating brain injuries. That's not really happened. They've made a little bit of progress, but as far as I could tell, not that much. 2 years earlier, he predicted that Tesla would eventually grow as big as Apple, a company that was then worth $700 billion. And again, that's quoting from an article in Futurism. Musk also suggested in 2016 that there would be people living on Mars by the end of 2025. And just last year, he said that AGI would arrive this year. So more swings and misses.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pretty much it. We missed a few of the predictions that I had compiled, but we got to most of them. So a lot of people got things just horribly wrong, which again is reason to be very cautious and judicious when one makes predictions of the future. There was a professor who once told me that there is no easier way to make a fool out of oneself than to predict the future.
Yeah.
And
it's always true. It's always been true, right? Not just for technology, but maybe with technology, you just end up saying sillier things because, people saying, I don't know, there have been some very silly political predictions as well, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reminded of H.G. Wells published this fantastic book, Discovery of the Future, back in the very early 20th century. And he made a number of predictions. Some of them kind of were accurate. Others were way off the mark. There was a book that he published in, I want to say it was the 1920s, in which he basically predicted the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
The details were different. In fact, he used the term atomic bomb.
Wow.
And yeah, absolutely, yeah. And there was a guy named Leo Szilard who read that book. And Szilard then was walking through, I think it was London, or it might have been Cambridge, I think it was London, and came up with the idea of the nuclear chain reaction, kind of inspired in part by H.G. Wells. And the nuclear chain reaction was what enabled the construction of nuclear weapons. So, there have been some quote unquote, secular prophets out there who have kind of gotten some things right. In some cases, it's been kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like those prophecies have then inspired people to pursue certain ideas and certain technologies, et cetera. So who knows exactly what the world will be like in 2026? I assume we'll have another episode in which we'll have this conversation.
And there's
maybe
still
we'll
going
talk
to be
about
no
the things
AGI. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But
I thought you were going to say if society still exists.
no, it will. I think that's a fairly safe prediction. All right.
Even I'm not that pessimistic.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back. Thank you.
See you later.